Good afternoon and good evening. Thank you for coming to Innovating for Inclusion, AI's role in the future of aging and disability. My name is Frances West. I'm the founder of Frances West & Co. I've been coming to Zero Project for many years, and it's great to be back here again this year with some new panelists. My work has been in the digital accessibility for 20 years, and I continue my work as IBM's first Chief Accessibility Officer after my retirement in 2016. I can't believe it's going to be 10 years from now. I've been working with enterprise and also startup in the area of digital inclusion and really trying to get companies to understand that when we talked about digital inclusion, it's really a business imperative. And it's not just for one segment of a population, but for all, because if we think and take accessibility seriously or meaningfully, then you will understand that this is really about putting human first, especially in the technology construct. And I'm just thrilled to have 3 specialists and 2 in person, and one on Zoom with us today. And what we're hoping to do is that there's tons of talk about AI, but what we want to do is to bring AI to the working level and to show and demonstrate how companies such as Uber or Ira is already implementing AI that benefiting society, individuals at scale. But we also want to discuss that because AI is absolutely the new and revolutionary technology platform, it's so important that business and government work together on the policy side. So we have a very honorable guest here. I'm going to ask him to introduce himself, and then we're going to start the panel discussion. So first, I'm going to turn to my left and ask Ambassador Gales to introduce himself a little bit.
Thank you, Francis. It's a pleasure to be here again in Zero Project. As you said, we've been coming to Zero Project, this marvelous conference and the work that Zero Project is doing around the world for more than 10 years now. It's a pleasure to be here again in this Fireside chat that is organized on a very specific topic, but a very wide range in endeavor that we are confronting as a world. AI is making us all think about what is going to happen and what the possibilities are, and of course what the challenges are. I am a retired member of the Foreign Service of Ecuador. I now am the president of the board of UNITAR, the United Nations Agency for Research and Training, and also I am the president of WID and the Global Initiative on Aging and Longevity, which we want to promote as a human rights endeavor of a convention to protect the rights of persons who are aging, similar to the CRPD. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here, and please continue.
I do want to add that Ambassador Gales was one of the principal diplomat actually sponsored in 2006 the UN Convention on the Rights for People with Disabilities. So we would not have a CRPD without his participation and frankly promotion on our behalf. So to my right is the CEO of IRA, and I'm going to ask Troy to introduce himself.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Troy Otilio. I am the CEO of IRA Tech Corp. This is my first Zero conference, and I can't believe I've never been here. So, thank you for inviting me. And we're here to pick up an award, but it's really about, I think, meeting and talking to folks from the international community. IRA's been a company focused primarily in the U.S., providing services for people who are blind and low vision. IRA stands for Artificial Intelligence Remote Assistance, which I think is, we're finally in the AI era, so we know a little bit about AI. We have AI, but we also have humans in the loop. And we provide a professional service that is deployed by 275 organizations, some of your big tech companies, many different retail locations, 50 airports. We can talk more about it, but the point is we found a way to make a scalable, reliable solution that integrates both AI and humans, the remote interpreter, and recently we've expanded into ASL. So I hope to share some of the learnings we've had and some of the successes in hopes that it might inspire you to find a similar path.
I want to mention that, after my work at IBM, and I started working with a startup, and one of the things that I always look for at startup is, can the solution scale and then can the solution sustain? Because if not, it's really what I call popcorn innovation. And Ira's solution is one of those solutions that not only scale but can sustain. So you're going to hear more about their solution. Last but not the least, we have joining us via Zoom is Brianna Gilmore from Uber. Anybody here heard about Uber or using Uber? Okay, great. I'm going to ask Brianna to introduce herself. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. Such an honor to be here with you and Ambassador Gayos and Tony. I'm just so disappointed that I can't join you in person, but incredible to be able to join you virtually and bring our perspectives and sort of the vision for accessibility at Uber. Obviously, it's a ubiquitous product and really integrated into our city life at this point. But I think still, even after a decade, a lot of people don't understand how AI already powers our platform. And certainly as we're embracing these new large language models and moving into the era of accessibility compliance, there's so many opportunities. And so after a few years of being here at Uber, it's really incredible to be able to converge these two moments of really having a chance to compel and hasten our accessibility work through the use of AI. So really excited to have this discussion today.
So Brianna is actually the head of global accessibility policy at Uber, and so her background actually, I guess we can say policy first, right? But she has begun to make tremendous impact, moving Uber forward and understanding how their platform and also their AI-based kind of innovation can support and can help government around the world to set the right and correct policy. So, Brianna, I'm going to give you the floor. So can you share with the audience here and globally, what are some of the latest work that is inspired by AI, but it's already make impact, especially for aging and people with disabilities?
Sure. Thanks, Francis. And thanks for a more specific introduction. I always say I'm a disillusioned geographer. That's how I started my career, and then turned disability advocate for over a decade, and then happened to find myself really at the intersection of those two places here at Uber. But so much of my work in the disability community has really been on community integration. And that is how I approach my work, is the idea of accessibility as really the combination of independence and safety and self-efficacy. So as I'm thinking about the work and how to use Uber's tools and our knowledge base internally, really it's through that lens of how can we bring policy and our city partners and technology together to facilitate community integration. And as I started saying, Uber's been using AI for over a decade, right? Like that's what makes our rides so efficient and safe. It's what powers our platform's ability to predict supply and demand, identify and tailor your delivery preferences, and send user deals that seem to be really relevant to your purchasing history. But it also keeps users and pedestrians safe. So for example, we preference right-hand turns in almost all of our trip journeys, given that left-hand turns incur such a disproportionately high number of traffic accidents. And really this benefits transportation systems as a whole. These predictive analytics, it's one of the reasons that we've been really successful at mobilizing partnerships with taxi platforms and cities and paratransit organizations all over the world. And after years of operating separately, really public transportation systems and taxi systems, fleet operators all over the world are benefiting from this AI. And it's what makes us and has made us such successful city partners. Especially from the origin story of Uber, there's these really kind of outdated ideas about how Uber shows up as a city partner and also how we show up for our communities. The reason that AI and our predictive capability, our safety capability has been so essential for community integration and the overall affordability and efficiency of transport is because most people with disabilities around the world use trip chaining to achieve essential trips. So we know this if we don't have a personal vehicle ourselves, or if we don't ride a bike to get to work. You know, people around the world, they take an Uber Moto ride to get to the metro and then walk to work. And people take, call an Uber to get to their, or take a bus to get to a metro to get to work. But when then they get home from their shift work, the bus has stopped running. And so to make sure that they can be safe for that last mile home, they call an Uber. And there's this persistent myth that Uber is primarily used by middle income people. And that was true 10 years ago, but now we have Transportation Bureau statistics from around the world and scientific research that's indicated that Uber users with disabilities use the platform for both mobility and delivery more than people without disabilities. Some research has found almost 3 times as much Uber users with disabilities use the platform more. And we use it because we lack access to a personal car or financial resources. We lack the ability to trip chain without a personal vehicle, and we use it to enhance our independence and our well-being. We think that this is not only an essential value, but also understanding the needs of our community and really embedding that in our algorithm is key to integration. Researchers are also have also recently found, and folks who get to hear me several times this year will hear me talk about this every single time. A researcher has also found that the launch of Uber in cities around the world has been causal to the increase in marriage rates for people with disabilities, which promotes what we've always known about transportation as a social determinant of health. And so we see this link from what we see as core to our happiness and our socialization to the most sophisticated forms of AI. The reason is because of our ability to enhance safety and independence, which is so core to accessibility, and what that means for how we can mobilize our lives, how it increases self-efficacy in our decision-making. When getting back to kind of the details of AI, obviously what we see expanding right now, it creates different opportunities. We've used this mapping algorithmic tool, and now we're exploring what advanced language models have an opportunity to do. The most critical area that this has immediately helped my work in is analyzing customer support interactions. When I came on board a few years ago, I had essentially no user data about people with disabilities, which is sort of the flip side of really strong privacy controls and a lack of personalization around disability. But we have been able to use AI to really quickly aggregate and anonymize customer interactions from around the world to determine the most commonly accessibility related challenges and prioritize them. This is really essential to help us guide solutions, especially for communities who lack advocates in the community that have been able to coalesce around technology. So we think this is particularly relevant for determining potential to better tailor trip experiences to folks in the aging communities in particular, as well as for people with cognitive disabilities. And so that's really what we're working on now.
Well, thank you, Brianna. I think we all agree that we probably can have a separate discussion on some of this innovation that, and using data-driven innovation that Brianna just shared. I know for once that, because Uber come on scene 10 years ago, disrupted the entire industry. So sometimes, they might not be as, because the technology is moving so fast. But I have to give Uber some credit for example, they announced that in the U.S., a lot of blind people with a service dog, and some of the Uber ride drivers would not stop for people with a service dog. But now they have implemented functions that you can really report on the incidences. So there is some accountability that's built into the Uber, kind of a process that is making a difference. So now I'm going to turn to Troy. This morning we heard a lot about, how AI can be used to help blind people navigating, through Be My Eyes kind of a discussion. So could you share with us how IRA makes a difference, especially in the employment setting or learning setting? Because we know that employment in addition to getting around through transportation, the next thing is that we want to be able to have the economic independence. So please share with us your solution and also your, kind of journey into this area.
I'll start by commenting that if you look at the advent of what we call visual interpreting, so the idea of connecting someone who's blind to a remote agent, it could be a professional trained visual interpreter, or it could be a professional AI, has really led to independence. At IRA we say, and it's our motto, and it's even emblazoned in my jacket here, it's access is a human right, and we really take that to heart, but it's quality access, it's access you can trust. And if you look at what Uber did, is it did create independence for people, especially who are blind. It's like one of the favorite tools of the community. So is IRA, and the reason is because we focused on trust and quality. So our quality bar is at the highest level we can produce, and today that is mostly with humans. Yes, we also do the image AI that a lot of companies do, but we add on top of that human verification. And we've seen through verifying many thousands and tens of thousands of images that the AI doesn't always get it right. But we believe, and I would suggest to others, that as you integrate AI into any function, you want to combine the human and the AI and not look at them as separate. And so what we've been unable to do is bring AI to the quality that matches a human interpreter. But I think you'll see in the coming years that more use cases will be delivered with AI. So that's my comment on AI. But at the same time, you asked about how do we work with employers, how do we work with students, how do we scale? And really what that is working both with the individual, so working with and building with the blind community, but also the employers, right, understanding their needs. So there's a big focus on security, because you might go, well, hey, I'm going to bring this solution into my office, sensitive information, that remote interpreter, are they secure? Is your platform secure? So we've taken into account the enterprise requirements, and we focus on that every day. And we're always thinking about how we scale. How do we scale so we answer calls within 5 seconds, almost on every call, making it like Uber. Like what made Uber great was before, if you wanted to get a ride, a taxi, you're uncertain about when that car would arrive. You're uncertain about the quality of how that experience would be. They've standardized it, and they've given us quick access to transportation. IRA gives you quick access to visual information. And I can tell you the benefits are really amazing. So today, I was borrowing from Mike Buckley, he's good at the stats. Today, there's going to be about 1,000 people or more showing up to work using IRA. Some of that's going to be in a warehouse setting, in a manufacturing setting. Some of it will be a knowledge working setting. Will they be using it nonstop? No. IRA's there to overcome the small barriers that can get in the way of finishing your task. So think of IRA as this ubiquitous layer, this access layer that is there when other solutions don't work. When your screen reader doesn't work, you can have an IRA agent access the desktop and either describe the screen or remote into the desktop to overcome perhaps a dialogue that is inaccessible. So we're there every day facilitating employment. I'll tell you the other advantage of this kind of thinking. So employers who deploy IRA also find that they're more attractive to people with disabilities, to people who are blind, because that individual knows that the employer understands them, right? Because they've taken the step to deploy a solution that can solve many problems. Equally, the employer is very satisfied because there's a lot of questions. Most of us, everyone here, like we're the disability champions, right? We're curious and we support, but most managers, most folks do not have that experience. They have all these questions about what it would be like to have someone blind working at their company, and they may not talk about it, but that uncertainty leads to inaction. And with a solution like IRA, and there's many other solutions, when management understands that there are things to smooth out the rough edges, because not every workspace is accessible, they're just a lot more confident about hiring. So we have some companies, some I can't name, that have hired literally hundreds and hundreds of people. A lot of that has to do with the fact that there is a solution that satisfies management's concern over accommodation and satisfies in this case, the blind and low vision individual, that they have a solution that's going to work for every use case. So those are just some of the things that we've learned, and I'd love to talk more about it, but I know we got to get to our next person. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to mention that IRA right now, at least in the U.S., is in places like Starbucks and Target, you know, where we shop and we drink our coffee. And so it's a very, very proven platform. And I can tell you that the first time I heard about the IRA solution, the use case that came to my mind was actually for my mother. My mother, she since passed away. She's Chinese. She doesn't speak English at all. We used to have to book her flight from Boston to Hong Kong, but there's no direct flight. She has to transit in Los Angeles. And can you imagine if you don't speak English and you have to change terminal from domestic to international? So when I heard about IRA, I thought about, you know, what if I can, at that time you have a smart glass, actually one of the early adopter of smart glasses. And I thought, well, if she can tap on the glass, and a Chinese agent, human, will come on and be her guide and to tell her where to go. Won't that be great? So a lot of the technology that we're talking about that can scale, it's not just addressing people with disability, but aging. Because these two things are common to us, right? Aging and disability. And of course, as you age, like I always said, when I started this journey, I did not need any of the accommodation, but now my eyes are no good, my hearing is beginning to go, and I hate to say that, but I'm wearing flats now because my knees are also not working. So on that note, I want to now ask Ambassador, because Ambassador, you and I worked together for 20 years. Last night we figured it out. First on the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disability, now on the aging. And you know, you talked about you're a diplomat by trade, but how did you get into technology with us? And what's your view of technology, especially, you know, relative to the topic that we're talking about here, the AI, especially for the aging?
I think that you have to go back to the accessibility definition, which Troy was mentioning, because it is a human right. It's Article 9 of the Convention on Disability included access to technology. The responsibility of the 191 states that have signed the CRPD is that they have to give accessibility to persons with disabilities. If we talk about numbers, we're talking about 1.3 billion people who have disabilities in the world. If you multiply that by 2 people, which is the direct impact group, you have 3.9 billion people who require the technology, who need the technology, who aspire to have a better technology every day. And as these marvelous examples of Uber and IRA have just been expressed, we need this as a system of life, a sustainable work, health, and the conduction of our lives together. As we age, and being a person who's aging, we're 1 billion people who are aging at this moment. And in 25 years, according to the statistics of the UN, we will be 2 billion. Fertility rates are falling, and we are more aging than children being born. And therefore, if you multiply the 2 billion by the index of 2 I just mentioned, we will be 6 billion people in the year 2050 who require technology for assisted living, for workability, and especially for longevity. So I think that we're in front of an extraordinary opportunity, both for those who are working in AI on the implementation, to make life a better standard of living around the world. I come from the global south, and one of the fascinating issues is that I use Uber all over the world. I can talk about issues of using technologies beyond the span of 120 countries. So I really am an optimistic person that looks at the possibility of the use of technology as not only a breaker of barriers, a disruptor of what we have now, but also as a right for persons with a disability and the right of a person who is aging. We're working on the UN Convention for the Aging now. We hope to begin the negotiations this month in Geneva. And we hope that we can have those rights included in the aspects of responsibility by states to give to persons who are aging the rights that they are due. That is fundamentally our work at the moment.
Well, thank you. I want to mention that I think having technology as a part of the CRPD was part of one of the biggest collective accomplishment that we can say, because we knew even back in that's now 20 years almost.
Yeah.
That technology is going to be here and stay, and that we must have a technology as part of the underpinning of the human rights if we want it to be truly impactful. And since this is the topic of AI, I mean, we only have 4 minutes left. I will ask each of the panelists to say if there's one thing you can recommend to the audience here, you know, both business and also advocacy people, what would that be that you think that will enhance as we, you know, jointly get on this journey of AI?
So those organizations that I described have deployed IRA. They're spending money. Frankly, they don't have to. It's not compelled by compliance. And the motivation has really come from sharing the human story. We can talk about statistics. We can talk about outcomes, and those are important. But when you show someone struggling with an inaccessible, you know, situation, and you see that barrier overcome and the emotion that comes with that, I think those are the stories that people carry to their friends and talk about. So my one thing would be, wherever you find those stories, whether that's on social, you can follow IRA, we have plenty of those, but you probably have other places in your life, you're experts here. Share those stories. I think those are really what changes people's minds about the ease and the need for investing more in accessibility.
Brianna, can you share your perspective?
Sure. I mean, the advancements that I'm most excited about over the next few years are exactly what Ambassador Gayos had mentioned about aging communities. I think of this from the perspective of families and caregivers, tens of millions of caregivers around the world, $150 billion annually wasted in our healthcare system because of a lack of transportation to medical sites, you know, billions of hours that caregivers are spending because of the lack of access to basic rights and community well-being. And really, when I think about AI supporting us and getting to some of the tooling that we're developing for older adults, there's a foundation of, first of all, our fairness principles around transparency, which is essential to understanding the needs of aging members of our communities and people with cognitive disabilities, really getting to using modeling to be able to tailor exactly what an individual needs. And really that, yes, that enhances safety and independence, but what it really does is provides clarity and the minimization of information. I think that everybody's excited about how much information AI can provide. At Uber, we're always thinking about how can we actually reduce the cognitive load and executive function impact of our work, because there's so much information that we could share with our drivers, with our users. But the more we share, the more taxing a person's cognitive environment is, the greater the impact to safety. And so when we're thinking about the balance of personalization, offering transparency and more information, we're also thinking about how are we not overwhelming drivers, impacting safety negatively, and potentially impacting the cognitive load of older adults. And I really
sorry, I
find
have to, yes, I mean, this is
Oh,
great.
sorry, go
because,
ahead.
yeah, we only
Thank
have 55 minutes. I do want to give Ambassador the chance to share one thing.
Thank you, Francis. Just, I'd like to just make an emphasis on one word: dignity. I think that we're challenged to give persons dignity, and the technology can make that possible. So dignity is the word of the day.
And I would just add in that personally, I think each one of us, we talked about large language model, there is a movement towards personal language model or small language model. Each one of you can contribute to the data set. So I've been experimenting with called personal AI, loading up my perspective. Each one of you could do that. Well, collectively, if we bring the story, our personal story, and also dignity into the technology, we make it human first. Thank you.